The notice had been stapled to Dock 14 with 2 steel fasteners, certified non-renewal of occupancy. The paper snapped against the cedar post. My husband, Jack, had set that post 19 years earlier, when Dock 14 was still a line of boards we could barely afford. Now a notice ordered Cole Ramsey to remove his tools, lumber, and unfinished boats from Mercer Marine within 30 days. Cole had rented that workshop for almost 20 years. No one removed him without speaking to me first. I had been away for 3 weeks, settling my sister's affairs after her funeral. Caleb had offered to manage the marina. I gave him limited administrative authority and permission to sign routine vendor forms. At the bottom, beside Evelyn Mercer, were my digital initials, EM. The E leaned too far forward. The M was too careful. After 32 years of repair estimates, I knew my own hand. A camera clicked behind me. 2 men stood near the fuel dock. One photographed the repair sheds while the other pushed a measuring wheel across the gravel. Orange stakes had appeared between shrink-wrapped boats. The marina suddenly felt less like home and more like property on a map. Can I help you? Site assessment, ma'am. For who? You'll need the project representative. This is my property. Both men paused. Nora Price came around the engine shop. She had managed the yard since before Caleb could drive. Evie. You're back early. I'm back when I said I'd be. Her eyes dropped to the notice. Air tools stopped. Mechanics avoided looking at me. Cole stood inside his workshop with both hands on a cedar frame. You knew? I asked. Got it 4 days ago. And you didn't call? We were told you approved it. Cole glanced toward the office. Caleb arrived 20 minutes later in a clean blue shirt and loafers untouched by grease. He crossed the yard. Mom. You should have called. I held out Cole's notice. His smile tightened. I was going to explain. Start now. He looked at the employees. Not out here. That paper was posted out here. Caleb lowered his voice. It's temporary. We're applying for a storm resilience package. Consultants need parts of the property available for reconfiguration. Nobody is being thrown out tomorrow. Cole has 30 days. Standard language. It keeps our options open. Our options. You were burying Aunt Diane. I wasn't going to drag you through grant deadlines. Caleb had called every night while I was away and told me the marina was fine. I wanted those calls to mean what I believed, so the survey is for a grant. Flood protection, stronger bulkheads, upgraded electrical service. The work Dad always said we'd do. Caleb knew I had defended him for years. He wants to protect what his father built. I pointed toward the stakes. Why are occupied slips marked redevelopment assessment? Consultant language. And my initials? You approved the administrative packet. I approved vendor authority and insurance submissions. It was all in the same digital file. Nothing has been sold, he said. Nothing permanent has happened. Let me finish, then I'll explain every page. Every instinct I had as an owner told me to stop the survey, collect the office keys, and open every file. Every instinct I had as his mother asked for one more explanation. I folded the notice. Finish today's assessment. I knew you'd understand. Inside the office, 3 family photographs were missing from the wall above Jack's old desk. In their place was an architectural print covered by brown paper. Nora closed the door. What haven't I been told? Caleb said questions about future planning had to go through him. He told the staff you were stepping back. I never said that. I know. Then why did nobody call me? Because every time someone questioned Caleb, you said he had a good reason. Nora had watched me excuse missing reports, consultant invoices, and decisions Caleb called modernization. I called it succession. Hannah called it favoritism. I phoned my daughter. It rang until voicemail. Hannah, it's Mom. I'm back in Bayhaven. I need to ask you something about Caleb. Please call me. That evening. I sat at my kitchen table with Cole's notice, my laptop, and every authority form I remembered signing. My real initials were quick, uneven, unmistakably mine. The initials on Cole's notice looked practiced. I almost called Caleb. My thumb rested over his name, but I pictured the employees going silent when I entered the yard. If I accused him too soon, records could disappear, explanations could change, and people whose paychecks depended on me could be trapped between us. So for the first time in my life, I did not call my son. I opened the Bayhaven County Planning portal instead. A pre-application had been filed for a private waterfront complex with 48 luxury residences, a restaurant pavilion, and a redesigned marina with fewer commercial slips. The managing representative was Caleb Mercer, the listed consenting property owner was Evelyn Mercer. I opened the preliminary schedule. Demolition was projected to begin in 9 weeks. At the bottom, beneath a certification box I had never seen, one sentence had already been marked complete. All ownership interests have reviewed and approved the proposed redevelopment. I read the sentence 3 times. All ownership interests have reviewed and approved the proposed redevelopment. The county website showed the application as active, not a draft. Caleb had told a government office that I had already agreed. I downloaded every attachment and copied the files to a flash drive. At 7 the next morning, I called Lena Brooks. Her father had kept a fishing boat at our marina for years. Lena later became one of Bayhaven's most practical land use attorneys. Bring the entire digital package, she said. By 9, her conference table held my laptop, Cole's notice, the authority letter I gave Caleb, and 43 pages I did not remember seeing. What did you believe you were approving? She asked. Insurance updates, grant submissions, consultant access, routine vendor forms. Did you read every page? I read what opened on my phone. That isn't what I asked. No, she arranged the documents into 2 rows. On the left were the forms I remembered, insurance records, storm photographs, and permission to inspect the seawall. On the right were the documents inside the completed package. The first was a 15-year master lease between Mercer Marine and Bayhaven Waterfront Management, LLC. Lena turned her laptop toward me. Caleb had formed the company 11 weeks earlier. He was its sole managing member. The lease gave his company authority over operations, tenant agreements, staffing, development negotiations, and non-renewal notices. That explained Doc 14. The second document assigned most slip fees and repair receivables to Caleb's company. The third granted it an option to purchase the waterfront yard at a fixed price. I recognized the number. It came from an appraisal completed 4 years earlier, before nearby waterfront sales pushed land values upward. That price is outdated. Very. I never accepted it. Lena opened the electronic certificate. The documents carry your electronic signature. That creates a serious problem. It does not end the inquiry, but we cannot pretend these pages do not exist. He put them there. Maybe. Or he presented them in a way that prevented informed consent. Those are different allegations, and neither proves itself. The audit trail showed the package had been opened and completed from the Marina office computer. My email supplied the verification code. Then I remembered the call. I had been in my sister's kitchen, sorting clothes for donation while the funeral home corrected her death certificate. Caleb said a code was coming and asked me to read it back so he could submit the insurance section before the deadline. I gave him 6 numbers without opening my laptop. You gave him a code for what he described as an insurance submission, Lena said. That matters. It does not automatically cancel a signed agreement. We need the original email, the signing sequence, and every statement he made before and after. For 32 years, I had warned people not to sign what they had not read. Caleb had not beaten that woman in a fair negotiation. He had called her while she was planning her sister's funeral. The distinction did not make me feel less responsible. How much access did you give him? Lena asked. Office keys. Vendor accounts. Scheduling. Routine signatures. Banking. View access and limited transfers for payroll emergencies. Company email. He knew the passwords. He was supposed to take over someday. Someday is not a governance plan, Evie. She was right. After Jack died, every succession discussion felt like admitting the Marina would outlive me. I let Caleb handle more each year and called it training. Hannah called it favoritism. I tried my daughter again. This time she answered, "Mom, I need to talk to you about Caleb." "What did he do?" "I don't know yet." "Can we meet?" "I'm on shift." "This may involve the Marina." That's usually when I become family again. The word stung because they were not entirely unfair. "I'm sorry." She exhaled. "Send me what you can. I'll call after shift change." It was not forgiveness, but she had not hung up. Lena gathered the pages into folders. "Preserve everything. Don't edit emails. Don't accuse Caleb of forgery. Don't remove his access until we understand the operational risk. And don't promise him anything to make him talk." "What do I say when he asks?" "You are reviewing the storm documents because the county file confused you." If he explains them, write down exactly what he says and follow up in email. My phone rang before we finished. Harbor County Community Bank wanted to know whether I had authorized an assignment of Marina receivables to Bayhaven Waterfront Management. I'm reviewing that document with counsel. Instructions had been submitted directing slip payments and repair income to a new account. Our credit line was secured partly by those receivables. Until legal confirms who has operating authority, we may place a temporary hold on further advances. The Marina used that line to order engines, electrical components, lumber, and fuel before customer payments cleared. When does the hold begin? Today. By the time I returned to the yard, rainwater was dripping through the engine shop roof into a bucket. Someone had removed the brown paper from the office print. It showed glass balconies where our repair shed stood. Nora found me in the payroll room. The parts supplier called. Our order didn't clear. I opened the cash report. After Friday's payroll, insurance, and fuel delivery, we had 9 working days before the account became a problem. Maybe 11 if 2 customers paid early. The Marina was still mine on every sign facing the road. Yet Caleb had placed himself between the business and the money it needed to survive. I called him. I found the county application. A brief silence. I was going to walk you through it. I don't understand half the storm package. That's why I handled it. The grant people combine everything. I need a day or 2 before we talk. His voice softened. Take all the time you need. Nothing in there changes who owns the place. I wrote that sentence down exactly, then I returned to Lena with my property files. She placed the development map over copies of my deeds and aligned the shoreline, road, and parcel boundaries. The waterfront yard appeared inside the disputed lease and purchase option. The adjoining dry storage lot did not. Lena traced the proposed truck route. It crossed the dry storage parcel, followed the planned utility corridor, and entered the project at the only point wide enough for heavy equipment. She looked up at me. Caleb may have found a way to control the Marina, she said. But the project he promised cannot be built without crossing land he never touched. Lena left her finger on the dry storage parcel. For the first time since I found Cole's notice, I could see something other than damage, not victory. Just a place Caleb had failed to reach. I want both deeds, the survey, and every tax record tied to this lot, Lena said. Do not mention the access problem. Especially to Caleb. Especially to Caleb. On the drive back to Mercer Marine, I practiced the conversation I needed to have. I'm tired, Caleb. Maybe you were right. The words sounded false, but they were close enough to the truth to hurt. I was tired of storms, insurance renewals, corroded wiring, late payments, and wondering whether one bad season could erase what Jack and I built. Caleb was in the office beneath the waterfront rendering. Someone had labeled the pool, private club, and dining terrace. The old photograph of Hannah wearing Jack's welding mask had been moved to a filing cabinet near the floor. Caleb stood beside Jack at the helm. Hannah was at the edge. The photograph arranged our family the way I later arranged the business. You wanted to talk? Caleb asked. I've been thinking about what you said. About the grant package? About all of it. I let my shoulders drop. I'm 58. Every year this place asks for more. Maybe I've been too stubborn to admit that. His expression stayed careful. I didn't do this because I thought you were weak. I did it because you refused to see what the Marina is taking from you. That sounded like concern. It might even have contained some, I need you to explain the paperwork without making me feel stupid. You're not stupid. Then why does a storm grant need a 15-year lease? He opened his laptop. The lease gives one company authority to coordinate improvements. Lenders don't want tenants, vendors, and income streams handled separately. And the purchase option? A planning tool. It doesn't force a sale. The county application says I approved redevelopment. They needed owner acknowledgement to begin review. Review is not construction. His answers were smooth. None matched the language Lena had shown me. I thanked him and requested a simple written explanation. His email arrived that evening. Caleb wrote that Bayhaven waterfront management existed only to simplify grant administration and coordinate consultants. He also wrote that no permanent sale or transfer could occur without my direct participation and separate approval. I forwarded the message to Lena and printed a copy. Caleb believed he was calming me. He was also defining his story in writing. The next morning, 3 more tenants received non-renewal notices, a charter captain, a diesel mechanic, and a waterman who had stored crab pots behind the north shed for 11 years. You said nothing permanent had happened. I told Caleb, nothing has. The notices preserve flexibility. They force people to leave before we decide. If the developer walks because we delay, the Marina could owe pre-development costs. How much? I'm confirming it. Send me the agreement. I will. He did not. At noon, Hannah texted me, ambulance bay. 6:30. 20 minutes, she sat on the rear bumper of an ambulance in navy uniform pants. Eating vending machine crackers. She did not hug me. I handed her Caleb's email, the county application, and the first page of the lease. He asked me to sign something, she said. When? A month ago. A family statement saying you had planned to retire for years and both your children supported replacing the Marina. Why didn't you tell me? Hannah gave a humorless laugh. Because the last time I warned you about Caleb, you called me jealous. She had questioned consulting payments Caleb approved for a college friend. I accused her of resenting him because he stayed involved while she built a life elsewhere. I was wrong. You were certain. I was still wrong. Caleb said the statement was only for community discussions. When I refused, he told me I had no right to sabotage the family's future after choosing not to be part of it. You are part of this family. Not when the Marina is involved. That is my fault. For years, I said Caleb came to work after Jack died while Hannah chose emergency medicine. The harder truth was that I used Caleb to fill the space Jack left. I treated his presence as loyalty and Hannah's independence as rejection. I made Caleb Jack's replacement, I said. And I acted like leaving the Marina meant leaving us. Her face softened, but not enough to call it forgiveness. An apology doesn't fix the documents. No. I need your help finding what else he has said. I'll help protect Mom. I'm not promising anything beyond that. It was more than I deserved. 2 days later, Lena found Caleb's name in a foreclosure complaint involving a stalled condominium conversion outside Annapolis. Costs had risen, pre-sales collapsed, and the lender declared a default. Caleb was not just a consultant, he had personally guaranteed a substantial portion of the debt. A hearing on the lender's motion was scheduled in less than 6 weeks. That explains the schedule, Lena said. A redevelopment fee, a buyout, or an ownership interest he can pledge might keep the other project from taking him down. I stared at Caleb's signature. I had wondered whether he wanted the Marina because he hated what it represented or simply wanted the land. The truth was more dangerous. He needed our property to rescue a failure he had hidden from us. That did not excuse him. It made him desperate. I met Caleb in the repair shed the next afternoon. Rain dripped through the roof into a bucket between us. I keep thinking about retirement, I said. His eyes lifted immediately. I don't know whether I'm ready to give up the Marina, but I'm willing to evaluate the full project. What do you need? Financing, environmental reviews, employee plans, tenant relocation, and a clear explanation of what Hannah and I receive. He nodded too quickly, and the dry storage lot. There it was, I'll consider including it after I review the complete package. Caleb smiled, that's fair. It was the first honest sentence in the conversation. He described lender meetings and Gavin Reed's confidence that the county would support the project. I listened, asked simple questions, and made no promise. By evening, Lena had requested the development file. Hannah had started searching public records connected to Caleb's failed condominium project. Caleb believed his mother had finally become tired enough to surrender. The pressure arrived the next morning, for additional slip notices were prepared. Caleb warned that Gavin could withdraw and seek reimbursement for surveys, engineering, and other costs if I delayed. I asked again for the agreement creating that liability. Again, he promised to send it. Again, nothing arrived. Hannah called after midnight. You're sure this is a strategy? Yes. Because pretending everything is fine is what you do when you're afraid of losing someone. I had no answer that satisfied either of us. The following afternoon, Caleb took a video call from Gavin in the office. The door stayed closed for 9 minutes. When Caleb came out, his face had lost its color. The lender moved the closing review and planning presentation forward by 10 days, he said. Why? They're tired of uncertainty. He placed a document on Jack's desk, access and utility easement. A message from Gavin appeared beneath it. Funding will be withdrawn unless Evelyn Mercer signs in person. I read the message twice. Funding will be withdrawn unless Evelyn Mercer signs in person. Caleb stood across from me, waiting for panic. When is the presentation? 8 days. The lender review happens the same morning. I touched the easement packet but did not open it. I'll attend. I want to understand what this place becomes before I sign away anything Jack built. His shoulders loosened. That's all I've been asking. It wasn't. He wanted my signature, my land, and the appearance of family consent. But his deadline was forcing him into a room where every promise would need paper behind it. That afternoon, Gavin's lender requested an ownership schedule, related party agreements, environmental reports, written community support, proof of access, and disclosure of personal guarantees. Caleb read the list at Jack's desk and moved quickly past the final requirement. You'll provide all of that? Gavin's team handles most of it. It's routine. The more routine Caleb called something, the more carefully I preserved it. Lena told me not to interfere with the submission. Every required disclosure fixes his story in place, she said. Once he gives the lender an ownership schedule or support package, he cannot easily claim he said something different. She drafted a formal notice disputing the master lease, revenue assignment, and purchase option. It would go to Caleb, Gavin, the lender, and the county, but not yet. If we filed too early, the presentation could disappear and documents could be revised. We needed Caleb's claims locked into the record. Nora found the first missing records 2 mornings later. She entered my office carrying a server log. Maintenance folders are being moved. Tenant correspondence had also vanished from the shared drive, including complaints about non-renewal notices. Can you recover it? I have the backups I'm authorized to keep. I won't enter Caleb's private account. Then she closed the door. The employees think you're selling. I haven't agreed to sell. They see surveyors, notices, and a luxury rendering in your office. They see you meeting privately with Caleb while they wonder whether they'll have health insurance next month. I'm trying to protect them by keeping them uninformed. Her voice stayed calm, which made the criticism harder to avoid. Through the window, Luis Ortega rebuilt a transmission beside a toolbox covered with his children's school stickers. Marcy Bell checked an electrical panel in the wrist brace she pretended not to need. I called Mercer Marine our family legacy, but those employees had spent more hours preserving it than either of my children. You're right, I said. I gave Nora written authority to tell the staff there was a disputed redevelopment proposal, that no final decision had been made, and that I would not approve one without an employee transition plan and a meeting with them. I could not promise victory. I could promise they would no longer be kept deliberately blind. Nora read the authorization before signing it. That embarrassed me. She showed more care accepting limited authority than I had shown giving Caleb access to nearly everything. Hannah worked through the support letters in the lender package. 7 boat owners were listed as endorsing redevelopment. 4 said they had never seen the letters attached to their names. They had signed an attendance sheet at a storm preparation meeting months earlier. Cole Ramsey called me furious. That letter says I support tearing down my own shop. Write exactly what happened. Date it and send it to Lena. Hannah collected statements without coaching anyone. Some tenants blamed Caleb. Others blamed me for letting the situation reach them. Both belonged in the record. Lena hired Priya Shah, a civil engineer who specialized in waterfront access and stormwater systems. We told Caleb she was evaluating resilience upgrades for my personal parcel. He barely looked up from his phone. Priya spent 6 hours measuring turning space, elevation, utility routes, drainage, and soil conditions. Fluorescent paint appeared across the dry storage gravel, tracing lines no one had noticed before. At sunset, she unfolded the site plan across Nora's desk. The submitted heavy vehicle entrance crosses your dry storage lot, she said. The public road entrance on the Marina parcel is too narrow for construction traffic without acquiring neighboring frontage. Her finger moved across the map. The electrical extension crosses your parcel. So does the proposed stormwater route. Another design may be possible, but not within this schedule or budget. So without my lot, the project is not buildable as presented. Not impossible forever. Just dependent on land Caleb did not control and time his lender was not offering. Instead, the Marina's bank called before I reached home. Caleb had changed the online banking credentials under authority claimed in the master lease. The bank could not determine which management instructions were valid while the agreements were disputed. The credit hold remained. Now the operating account was restricted too. Our engine order failed. The fuel supplier moved us to cash in advance. Payroll was due in 5 days. I returned after dark and found half the repair lights off. Luis and Marcy were shutting down early because the parts they needed had not arrived. In the payroll office, Nora placed the cash report beside me. We can cover wages or insurance, she said. Not both. I called Lena. If we file tonight, can we regain control? Maybe temporarily. Or the bank could freeze incoming receivables until a judge decides who has authority. Gavin's lender may also claim an interest in the assigned income. I can't promise a clean result. How long? Longer than 5 days. Caleb had created enough uncertainty to make ordinary business impossible. I opened the retirement account Jack and I had built 3 years of skipped vacations and repairs after dinner. I transferred enough to cover 2 weeks of payroll and the employee health premium. Nora watched me sign the authorization at Jack's old desk. This buys time, she said, only time. The next morning, Caleb confronted me near the fuel dock. You moved personal money into operations. Payroll was short. You should have called me. You changed the banking credentials. The lease gives my company management authority. You told me the lease only simplified grant administration. His jaw tightened. The bank overreacted. Send that explanation by email. For a second, he studied me differently. Then Gavin arrived in a black SUV. They spoke behind the survey trailer. I could not hear the words, but I saw Gavin point toward the dry storage lot and then press a finger against Caleb's chest. Later, Lena obtained Gavin's written notice through the development file. It warned that failure to deliver clear access rights and owner cooperation could trigger repayment of preliminary costs. Caleb had hidden that too. By the weekend, Nora had pinned 2 sets of papers to the breakroom board. On one side were the project's claims of community support, on the other were signed statements from tenants explaining what they had actually agreed to. No speeches. Just 2 versions of reality waiting to be compared. Monday afternoon, Caleb emailed the final easement packet. A second attachment was titled Founder Remarks. The outline introduced me as the woman who had fully endorsed the transition of Mercer Marine into Bayhaven's next waterfront destination. It thanked Caleb for protecting the family legacy and instructed me to sign before the lender and planning board. I forwarded both attachments to Lena. Her reply arrived less than a minute later. Notice of disputed control scheduled for service, 8:45 a.m., immediately before the hearing. Caleb believed I was arriving to complete his deal. He did not know that before I entered the room, every person financing it would receive formal notice that his control of the marina, and every promise built on it, was disputed. At 8:42 the next morning, Lena and I entered Bayhaven Municipal Hall through separate doors. Caleb was already in the hearing room beside Gavin Reed. Behind them, a screen showed blue water, glass balconies, and a marina that looked nothing like ours. Nora sat in the back row with several employees and tenants. Hannah arrived in uniform after an overnight shift and sat beside her. At 8:45, a process server handed envelopes to Caleb, Gavin, the lender's compliance officer, and the county clerk. Caleb opened his first and looked toward me. The planning chair called the session to order before he could reach us. Gavin described Mercer Marine as an aging commercial property whose owner had requested a transition to higher value waterfront use. Luxury residences, a restaurant pavilion, and private slips appeared where our repair sheds now stood. Then Caleb took the microphone. My mother, Evelyn Mercer, founded this business with my late father. After years of discussion, our family agreed redevelopment was the best way to preserve its value. He stated that ownership questions had been resolved and that I would confirm the final access easement that morning. The clerk placed the packet before me. Caleb smiled as though my signature was a formality. I moved it aside. For the record, I do not consent to this redevelopment. The room went silent. The remote clicked in Caleb's hand, but the image did not change. I have not approved the transfer of my dry storage parcel. My attorney has formally disputed the master lease, purchase option, revenue assignment, and every representation based on them. Mom, we discussed this. We discussed my reviewing a complete package. I never promised you this land. Gavin turned toward him. Lena identified herself as my counsel and handed the clerk an evidence binder. She did not accuse anyone of a crime. She explained what the records established. First came the deed showing that I owned the dry storage parcel personally and that it was outside the disputed lease and purchase option. Next came the signing timeline. The storm package had been completed from the Marina office while I was arranging my sister's funeral, using a verification code I had been told was needed for insurance. Then Lena submitted Caleb's email stating that Bayhaven waterfront management existed only to simplify grant administration and that no permanent sale could occur without my separate approval. Dana Walsh, the lender's compliance officer, read it twice. Mr. Mercer, your ownership schedule describes your company as holding a purchase right over the entire development footprint. The option covers the marina parcel, Caleb said. The adjoining lot was always intended to be contributed. Intended by whom? My mother. I agreed only to evaluate it after full disclosure, I said. Dana looked at the unsigned easement. So no access right has been granted? No, Gavin returned to the microphone. The route can be redesigned. Lena submitted Priya Shah's engineering memorandum. The proposed construction entrance, electrical extension, and stormwater route all crossed my parcel. Another design might exist, but it had not been engineered, priced, or included in the financing schedule. Dana closed the folder. That is material. Caleb clicked the remote again. It's a technical adjustment. We have community support and operational control. That was when Nora stood. She carried the original non-renewal notices, server logs, and the instruction telling employees that future planning questions had to go through Caleb. The staff was told Mrs. Mercer was stepping back, Nora said. We were not told she disputed the project. Tenant correspondence and maintenance records were removed from the shared drive after she returned. You had no authority to access development files, Caleb said. I did not enter your private account. I preserved operational records I am responsible for maintaining. Lena provided the backup policy confirming it. Cole and 2 other boat owners submitted statements. Their names appeared in Caleb's support package, but none had endorsed demolition. They had signed an attendance sheet during a storm preparation meeting. My signature was used to say I supported closing the shop I've rented for 20 years, Cole said. Caleb looked at Gavin. Gavin did not look back. The planning chair asked whether any family member wished to address the claim of family support. Hannah rose. A month ago, Caleb asked me to sign a statement saying our mother had planned to retire and redevelop the marina for years. I refused because it wasn't true. You haven't cared about the Marina in years, Caleb snapped. I cared enough not to sign something false. His control finally broke, so this is what you chose? He demanded, turning to me. Decaying boats, employees you can't afford, and a daughter who walked away, over your own son. The polished consultant disappeared. You let me believe this place would be mine, he said. Dad died. I stayed, and I handled every storm and insurance fight. You treated me like the future until the future stopped looking the way you wanted. Some of it was true. I did let you believe the Marina would automatically become yours, I said. I favored you because you stayed close after your father died. I treated Hannah's independence like abandonment, and I failed to create a real succession plan. Caleb's face softened, expecting surrender. It does not excuse what you did. My failures did not give you permission to hide a 15-year lease inside emergency paperwork, assign company income, use tenants' names as support, or promise land you did not own. You don't understand what's at stake. I understand more than you wanted me to. I refused the easement and asked the board to suspend the application until ownership, access, environmental, and support questions were resolved. Lena confirmed that we would seek rescission of the disputed agreements through civil proceedings. Gavin stood. Our preliminary agreement allows us to pursue access rights and recover development costs. This project is not dead because one owner changed her mind. For a moment, it sounded possible. The bank had frozen our credit. Caleb's company claimed Marina revenue. A lawsuit could trap us long enough for the business to collapse, Lena answered calmly. Any access claim would first require resolving the disputed authority, the scope of the option, and the alleged owner consent. That process will not match the financing deadline in your submission. Dana checked the schedule. It will not. Gavin opened his briefcase and removed a printed email. Then the board should understand what we were promised. The email came from Caleb. It guaranteed full family cooperation, represented that my signature was assured, and made him personally responsible for specified pre-development expenses if he failed to deliver clear control and access. Caleb stopped clicking the remote. Gavin, that was part of a negotiation. It was the representation on which I authorized additional spending. Dana removed the financing summary from her binder. Given the disputed authority, inconsistent support documents, lack of executed access rights, and undisclosed personal obligations, the lender is pausing review effective immediately. She did not declare anyone guilty, she simply removed the money Caleb's plan required. Rain began tapping against the windows. The planning chair continued the application and required corrected ownership, access, and support records before another hearing could be requested. The screen went dark, the unsigned easement remained beneath my hand. People left slowly. Nora gathered the employees. Hannah waited near the door. Gavin spoke with his attorney in the hallway. Caleb stayed seated until almost everyone was gone. Then he approached me. If you withdraw the dispute and cover the condominium guarantee, I'll release the Marina agreements. There was no apology. Only another attempt to make his emergency mine. No, you'll lose the business fighting this. Maybe. But I won't buy it back from the person who took control of it. You would let your own son go under. I will not use the employee's future or your father's property to erase a debt you hid. Dana appeared at the doorway with two members of the lender's legal team, Mr. Mercer. Mr. Reed. Please remain. We need answers regarding financial representations that were not disclosed in the review package. Gavin walked back into the room without looking at Caleb. For the first time since I returned to Bayhaven, my son was no longer standing between me and the consequences he had created. He was standing alone inside them. The lender's attorneys kept Caleb and Gavin inside the hearing room for almost an hour. I waited in the hallway with Lena, Hannah, and Nora. No one celebrated. The Marina's credit was still frozen, payroll had been covered with my retirement money, and the disputed agreements were still alive. The hearing had stopped Caleb's project. It had not yet given me my business back. 3 days later, Gavin Reed terminated the redevelopment agreement, citing unresolved ownership, lack of access, and inconsistencies in the financing package. The county closed the application without prejudice, meaning another proposal could be filed someday, but the project on Caleb's screen was over. Then the civil fight began. Lena filed for rescission of the master lease, revenue assignment, and purchase option. Caleb's attorney argued that my electronic signature made every agreement enforceable. Our response included the signing audit trail, the verification code email, Caleb's written description of the lease as a grant administration tool, and the lender package showing that my separate consent was still required. None of it produced an instant victory. Depositions were scheduled. Accountants traced Marina income. The bank continued limiting credit until authority was clarified. Suppliers who once gave us 30 days demanded payment on delivery. For 6 weeks, every repair mattered. We worked shorter shifts. I postponed replacing the engine shop roof and moved the worst leak away from the electrical benches. Nora negotiated smaller parts orders. Hannah spent 2 days off helping us sort tenant records because we could not afford temporary staff. She never called that forgiveness. I did not ask her to. Caleb's position weakened when Gavin demanded reimbursement for pre-development expenses and the condominium lender advanced its foreclosure case. To satisfy part of those obligations, Caleb sold his remaining interest in the stalled project. The sale did not erase the debt. It removed the asset he had risked our Marina to save. 4 months after the hearing, both sides entered mediation. Caleb's company agreed to release the master lease, revenue assignment, and purchase option. In return, I agreed that disputed management fees would be resolved through the settlement rather than a separate trial. He surrendered fees already transferred from Marina income and signed a structured repayment agreement covering documented losses and part of my legal expenses. The settlement required monthly payments and financial reporting. His professional licensing status went before the appropriate review board. I submitted truthful records and left the result to the evidence. Once the agreements were released, the bank restored my operating authority and reopened the Marina's credit line with stricter conditions. For the first time in months, a parts order cleared without someone asking who was in charge. That should have felt like returning to normal. I no longer wanted normal. Normal was how we reached this point. I invited Nora and Hannah to Jack's old office. The luxury rendering was gone. So was the single signature stamp Caleb had used for routine documents. In its place sat a locked approval box requiring 2 authorized signatures for major contracts, property agreements, debt, and account changes. Nora read the proposed governance plan. "You're making me operating director. You've been doing the work without the title. And the employees? Annual profit sharing, written notice before any major restructuring, and an elected employee representative at quarterly meetings." Hannah turned to the last page. "You gave me a board seat. I offered you one. I'm not leaving emergency medicine to supervise a Marina. I'm not asking you to." She studied me. "I'll serve as an independent family representative if Nora has equal voting authority and the employee protections cannot be removed by one family member." "Agreed. Put it in the bylaws." "I already did." For the first time, Hannah smiled. It was small and cautious. But it was not forced. The new structure made one thing clear: inheritance would no longer be confused with competence, and being family would not place anyone above written limits. Nora became operating director. I remained majority owner, but I could no longer approve a major transfer alone. Hannah could not either. That was the point. Several developers contacted me after Gavin's proposal collapsed. One offered more than Caleb's option price. Another promised to preserve the Marina name while replacing nearly every person who made the name worth keeping. I rejected both. Keeping the yard did not mean refusing change. We replaced failing power pedestals and created 2 apprentice positions. The orange survey stakes remained in the dry storage lot for weeks. One morning, Luis and Marcy pulled them out and used the straightest pieces to brace a storm-damaged rack. No one made a ceremony of it. By winter, Dock 14 was busy again. Cole's non-renewal had been withdrawn, but his long-term lease still needed to be rewritten under the new rules. 8 months after the hearing, Caleb appeared outside the chain barrier while the crew was lifting seasonal docks from the water. He wore work boots and an old Marina jacket. He had surrendered his keys under the settlement, so he waited until I walked over. "I came to ask for work," he said. "We're not hiring. I'll work without pay." That would still give you access. I can stay outside the office. You can assign someone to watch me. He looked thinner and careful. I want to rebuild what I damaged. Part of me wanted to believe he had changed. Another part remembered how often I had protected him from consequences. Your restitution payment was late last month. 3 days. The condominium sale took longer to close. It was still late. I paid it. You did. He glanced toward Jack's desk through the office window. I know I'm not getting the Marina back. That was never the only thing you lost. He lowered his eyes. I know. I could only judge what he did next. You cannot work here. I said. Not paid, unpaid, supervised, or temporary. You will not have keys, account access, employee authority, or unsupervised contact with records. His face tightened, but he did not argue. Then what am I supposed to do? Make the next payment on time. Answer the licensing board honestly. Build a life that does not depend on someone else absorbing your consequences. And us? You are my son. That gives you a place in my life. It does not give you automatic control of my business. He stood quietly as the crew lifted another dock section onto its supports. Can we have lunch? When the next restitution payment clears. He nodded. That's fair. This time, the words did not sound like strategy. A week later, the payment arrived on time. I met him at a diner outside Bayhaven. We talked for 40 minutes. Not about ownership, inheritance, or returning to work. It was not reconciliation. It was the first conversation in years that did not require me to rescue him or him to impress me. The following spring, Cole sat in Jack's old chair with Nora and me. His renewed lease was 6 pages long. It listed rent, repairs, insurance, renewal rights, and the exact reasons either side could end the agreement. Cole read every page, so did Nora, so did I, then all 3 of us signed. Outside, Dock 14 carried the sound of saws, gulls, and an engine finally turning over after months of restoration. The Marina survived, not because I trusted less, because I finally stopped asking trust to do the work that honesty, limits, and accountability were supposed to do.